What's up guys, Kyle here again, and on today's episode of Obscure Gear, we are gonna take a look at the Peavey 412 MS. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, guitars, overdrives, guitars, I have not gotten that right once this week. Cabinets, speakers, and pickups, I record them with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes who put themselves in unnecessarily uncomfortable positions for your viewing pleasure, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks. This is so much better. All right guys, so today we are taking a look at the Peavey 412 MS. As I said, now there are two different iterations of this cabinet. There is the one that we have sitting here, which has the metal grate style front. This is a front-loaded cab and came stock from the factory with Sheffield 1290 speakers, which, in my personal opinion, are some of the worst speakers ever made. Again, my personal opinion. The other version is a cloth front 412 MS with rear-loaded Celestion G12K85s, and those cabs came with the Peavey Butcher and the Peavey VTM amps, and those are fantastic cabs, and we'll definitely take a look at one of those as well. But for today, we have this one here. Now, this amp was meant to be paired with the Peavey Ultra Plus, I am pretty sure, when it was released. This amp is made out of all birch plywood and is actually constructed very, very well. It just happens to have some really bad speakers in it, unfortunately. So yeah, these are great cabs. When you put good speakers in them, I have another one of these cabs that I put Celestion G12H30s and Warehouse Guitar Speaker Reaper 30s and an X pattern, and it sounds really good with those speakers in it. But these speakers just tend to be really bright on the top end, scooped in the mids, but they do have a nice punchy tight low end. So it's really just generally the mid and the top end voicing that does not sit well with me. I do not think this is a good sounding speaker at all, but we are definitely gonna hear it in all of its buzzy, harsh glory today. I am also gonna go ahead and kind of walk you around the cab, pull one of the handles off, and get some images from inside of the guitar cab as well, so you guys can kind of see how this thing is constructed. And then we'll do some sound clips with this awesome wall of amps that I have behind me. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay guys, so here we have the cab. It is disgusting as all, used Peavey gear from the 80s and 90s typically is. Here you can see we've got the front loaded speakers. They are loaded to the front. If you look really close here, you can see that this is 100% a plywood front baffle. So that's a good thing right off the bat. You definitely want your cabinets to be made of plywood. I guess it's subjective, but in all reality, MDF really typically does not sound all that great for guitar cabs. But yeah, front loaded, we have the metal grate over front of it, so that definitely adds to the brightness and the buzziness of the top end of these speakers. If this was a rear loaded cab with a thicker cloth grill, it definitely would not have those same really super harsh characteristics. So I really think that they should have not done this, but I know that this was kind of like the rage at the point that they made these in the early 90s, so I get it. Moving to the side here, we've got the classic 90s metal plastic handle here. This portion is plastic and typically cracks really easy, but Peavey actually put metal handles on these, so props to Peavey, because like Randall and Carvin actually made these out of 100% plastic at certain points, and they are very prone to breaking once they get older because they dry out and it's really easy to crack them. So we're gonna pry that handle off here in a few minutes and take a look at the inside of the cab. And on the back, we have a nice stereo jack plate. I always like stereo jack plates because I always like the option of running 2 amps into my guitar cabinets, because I like to go over the top with things, and so do a lot of my friends. So I'm definitely not alone there, but I do like the option of having a stereo jack on the back of these cabs. So to you, that may be a bonus, but either way, that's what's on there. Okay guys, so I now have the cabinet opened up, and as you can see, boom, we've got some thick plywood here, so definitely a good sign. Like I said, even though the speakers are poopy, the construction of the cab is great. But looking on the inside of this cab, this back panel I'm actually pretty sure is particle board, or MDF I guess. As you can see the wood grain in the bottom and the sides and the front baffle and everything here, it's pretty obvious to see the wood grain. But on this back panel, I can't see any wood grain. The wood is a slightly different color underneath all of this spray here. So I actually always thought that these were made out of all birch, but it appears that they are birch sides and front baffle and an MDF rear panel. And unlike on like a Marshall 1960 cab where you can just unscrew the back panel and replace it, this back panel is actually glued on and Tolexed over. So you cannot remove that back panel without serious modification, and at that point it's not worth it anymore. So yeah, kind of surprising to me. I always thought these were made out of birch, but you learn something new every day. Okay, so as far as the speakers, there's your Sheffield 1290. One of the worst speakers ever made, again, in my personal opinion. Front loaded, as you can see, and there's the wiring. Really not much else to see. It's got a center brace post here, which also appears to be solid wood. And then there's our stereo jack plate back there. So that is the inside of this cab. Turns out it's an MDF back, but the rest of it is birch. So still pretty good construction, especially when you can grab these cabs for around 200 bucks all day long. All right, guys, so we have all 4 of these awesome amplifiers hooked up to the KHE Audio amp switcher. Going into the Peavey 412 MS cab, I have an SM57 directly on the speaker, right where the dust cone meets the cap, so no idea how this is gonna sound mic'd up. But I also have a Stellar X3 condenser mic down over here in the corner as a room mic, so we'll capture a little bit of both and see how this thing sounds. So I'm gonna go ahead and start on the EVH 5153 EL34 100 watt stealth. All right, not quite as bad as I remember the last time I played it. Definitely has a lot of top end fizz and is pretty bright. So let's go ahead. I'm going to push the mids up a little bit and I'm going to pull the presence back just a little bit. All right, so that sounds really kind of gainy and almost over the top. I'm going to reduce the gain on this because it really, what I've noticed with Sheffield speakers is they all seem to have this kind of just top end fizz that you can't really dial out. And the Sheffield 1200 that comes in the 5150 cab, pretty much the same thing. And it really bugs me because otherwise it's like, it would be a pretty good sounding speaker. And kind of the same deal here. Like if it didn't have that top end fizz, I could get away with it, or I could probably pair it with something with a little bit more of a mid forward presence, but just that fizz, man, that kills me every time. Do another riff on the 5150 and then we will move over to the JCM 2000. I'm going to turn the mids up a little bit more and bring the highs up just a tad. All right, so nice punchy low end. It definitely handles the low end very well, but the mids are just really scooped. The top end is very buzzy and very fizzy. So don't like that. Definitely not my favorite. Let's go ahead and move over to the JCM 2000. Definitely like that better pretty much right off the bat. Let's adjust this a little bit though. Let's go ahead and pull the presence back on the amp just a tad. Bump those mids up quite a bit. Pull the low end up. All right. It definitely benefits from the Marshall mids, that is for sure, because this sounds way better to me. Like I said, that fizz is still there. That is not gonna go away no matter what amp we use on this speaker cabinet. The fizz is not gonna go away. It's an inherent part of the speaker and it drives me nuts, but it definitely benefits from the Marshall mids, like I said. Let's hear another riff real quick. Okay, again, like I said, just super fizzy. That fizz drives me nuts. Super scooped out. I do really like the low end of these speakers. The low end on these things is nice and punchy. Sounds good to my ears, but the top end fizz is just like, it's bad. It's really bad. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna move on to the Peavey XXX, which this amp, maybe it'll fare better because it's a Peavey amp voiced for these speakers a little bit more. I don't know, but let's go ahead and see how it sounds. Definitely like that the best out of the three so far. The low end on this amp gets massive if you push that bottom. So just for fun, we're gonna push the body and the bottom even more to accentuate the lows and the mids and maybe roll off those highs just a tad. Again, definitely still the best out of the three that we've tried so far. The top end fizz is there. It makes every amp sound like it has more gain than it actually does. Depending on the amp, that may be a bonus, but all four of these amps here do not suffer from lack of gain whatsoever. So definitely not gonna do these amps any favors. Yeah, one more amp on the XXX, one more riff on the XXX. We'll move over to the Mesa and then call it a day. Let's go to the Ultra channel. Definitely way more mid forward there. That definitely, I'm gonna say definitely a few more times. It accentuated the cabinet and the frequencies of the speakers much better. The mids are pushed pretty hard on the Ultra channel. I probably could have even backed them off a little bit or added a little bit of low end because the low end was a little lighter on this channel. But overall, I think that sounded the best. It fit the best with this cab so far. Finally, let's go over to the dual rectifier multi-watt. We are on channel 2 on the modern mode. We'll try the modern and the vintage, but for right now, we're on modern. If that doesn't accentuate everything bad about the rectifier, I don't know what does. It tightens up the low end just a little bit, but seriously, Fizz and Scoop City. Let's go over to the vintage mode. Definitely better than it was on the modern mode for sure. That actually might be a little bit too much high end. Let's back the high end and the mids down just a tad. All right, guys, I think that this actually, the vintage mode of the Mesa rectifier actually beats the XXX on this cab. This, in the room, sounds pretty good. So one last riff and we're done for the day. All right, guys, that is gonna do it for me today on the Peavey 412 MS. What did you guys think about this cab? I am very curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you own this cab? Have you ever had to play through one before? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I don't care. Put it down in the comments. I'll meet you guys down there to talk about it. If you'd like to support the channel and what it is I do here, down in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link. Click that link, get yourself something nice from the fine folks at Sweetwater. It costs you nothing extra. I don't know why I'm doing this with my head, but it greatly helps the channel move forward, so that would be cool. Or you can consider adding your name to this list of fine people right here by joining my Patreon community and supporting the channel that way. I'll love you forever, whether you want me to or not. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hit that like button on the way out if you liked the video and subscribe so you don't miss any more of my upcoming stuff. Kyle here again. We'll see you guys next time.